Okay, I want to start with a question for you. Imagine that a very special visitor is coming to your house. So here's the question. Would you rather it be a complete surprise? You don't know this person's coming, they just show up. Or would you rather know about it in advance so that you can prepare and look forward to it? Okay, so if you would rather it just be a complete surprise, you don't know about it at all, and they show up, give me a thumbs up, okay? Anybody? Any takers? All right, okay, I see some. All right, yeah. If you would rather know about it in advance so that you can be ready and look forward to it, give me a thumbs up. Okay, I'm actually seeing more for the let's know about it in advance. Okay. Well, what if you could have both? I want to tell you a little story about something that happened to a friend of mine when I was growing up. Her name was Molly, so we were Molly and Holly. She was my best friend. And she was going through a hard time in school. It was a hard year for her. And so one day her dad got an idea, and he said, Molly, I have something special planned for you. One day in the future, I am going to come to your school, and I'm going to pick you up, take you out of school, and we're going to go out to lunch to wherever you would want to go. And then I have planned a special adventure for you, doing something that you love to do. And he said, but here's the thing. I promise I'm going to do this, but I'm not going to tell you when I'm coming. Okay. Molly waited. Now, she kind of pushed back a little bit with her dad. She said, no, come on. When are you coming? Can you tell me when you're coming? And he said, no, I promise that I'll come, but I'm not going to tell you when. So I was Molly's friend, and she talked about it at school, and she was really looking forward to this. And after a while, she stopped talking about it as much, but maybe in her mind, she was still thinking about it and waiting. So here's a question. Do you think he came? You guys think he came? He did. One day, we were at school, and a note came from the office, and Molly went to the office because her dad had come to pick her up and take her out of school, and he took her to her favorite restaurant, which was a pizza place, and then Molly loved to go canoeing with her dad. You guys know what that is? Okay, so he had a canoe, and they went to a river, and they went canoeing together, and then after that, they went to a candy store in town, and she got to pick out some treats. So he came, and it was really exciting for Molly, and she had a great time. But she didn't know when he was coming, right? She knew he would come, but she didn't know when. And you know, the coming of Jesus, right, our Savior, was like that in some ways when I think about that story with Molly. Because God built a surprise into his promise. Jesus did not just show up unannounced. We've been learning about God's promises this fall, right? Some of you have been following along with that. And we know that even from way in the very beginning, with Adam and Eve, God promised them, after they had sinned and they had to leave the garden, he promised that a Savior was coming, right, to make things right again. And he made that same promise to Abraham and Isaac and Jacob and to David. And he had other messengers. We talked about that too. He had prophets, right? Messengers like Isaiah and Micah and others. And they too would remind God's people over the years of God's promise to send a Savior who would rescue us from sin and make the world new, like a perfect home for us again. So God told the people time and again that the Savior was coming. But remember, this was a promise with a surprise. Because he didn't tell them when the Savior would come, and he didn't tell them who this forever King, this Savior, would be. And they had to wait many, many years. And, you know, while they were waiting, they wondered if the promise was true. And sometimes they forgot the promise. But you know, at Christmas, and Christmas is this week, at Christmas we remember that God did keep that promise. He sent Jesus, God the Son, and he did come. And he was promised from the very beginning. But when he came, I think it came as a surprise. Right? When we think about those announcements at Christmas, it came as a surprise. And also the way Jesus came would have been a surprise. Because Jesus is our king, and yet he wasn't born in a palace, was he? Where was he born? Where was he born? Yeah. In a manger, right? In a stable, and they put him in a manger. And did he come to rule the first time as a powerful king? No. Right? He came in many ways, he acted as a servant. He was humble, and he became poor. So he gave up everything so that he could give us everything, and that we could know him. And you know what? We are in the last week of Advent, and that's important because we remember that we are still waiting. Did you guys know that we're still waiting right now for Jesus to come back again? Because we still have another promise. Jesus, when he went back up into heaven, after he came back to life again, right? After he had died on the cross and he came back to life again and he ascended into heaven, he promised. He said, I am coming again for you and to make all things new. But he built a surprise into the promise, didn't he? Right? Because he said, you won't know when. You won't know when I'm coming, but I will come. And listen, before I end this, I want you to think of a really, really happy moment in your life. Just something, just when you were so happy and surprised. Now, some of you guys know about infinity. I want you to multiply that times infinity. Because if you are a follower of Jesus, if you trust in Jesus as your Savior, that's how happy and joyful we will be when he does come again. When he comes back like he promised. And it'll be a surprise, but we will have known that he was coming because he promised that he will. And so I want you to remember that also. As we remember the first time Jesus came as a baby, also remember that we're still waiting right now for Jesus to come again, this time as our glorious King. And that is our big, big hope.